Hello, and welcome to In the Library. I'm your personal librarian, Bill Georato. On today's episode, I'll be taking a look at Bill Bryson's 2019 book, At Home, A Short History of Private Life. In this book, Bryson explores room by room the development of the house and a short history of each room. He also takes a look at some of the things that are traditionally found in each room and how they came to be and the stories behind that. So, come on in, take a seat, and let's turn some pages. So, in this book, Bryson uses his own house that he was using when he lived in England. He lived in England at the time of the writing of this book, and he used his own house as sort of a model. And the inspiration for the book was looking into the history of that house, which he talks a bit about in the opening chapters of the book. And that really sets the stage for what's going to be happening in the rest of the pages. And as a matter of fact, he even brings up a little schematic. This is the first floor. And this is the upper floor for, and there's Bill right there. That picture right there is the author. And he starts out with a history of the home and talks to some neighbors that have been in the area for a while, get their impressions of the house. And this really sets the stage and really makes it personal. That's a lot of what Bryson does in his writing. It's very personal. It's almost participatory journalism, to coin a phrase that's been around for a while. It's very much like that. As far as getting into the chapters, he starts out with the hall, as he calls it in the book. What he means by hall is hallway, because way back when humans first started constructing buildings, as we call them now, to live in, they were very narrow and very long. And as other rooms developed and other spaces were needed in various parts of living, those rooms were added to the side with passageways into those rooms. And so as the house developed, that first house, a very long, narrow construction, became the hallway. And it really opens up how the house developed, or how the idea of a house to live in came to be. And he does a lot of this kind of stuff in the rest of the chapters as we go literally room by room in the house. Another example is the bathroom. Everybody knows the toilet and that joke that the toilet was invented by John Crapper. Well, the toilet as we know it today really was invented by a guy named John Crapper. And hence we have the nickname, the Crapper. And he gets into a lot of stuff like that, a lot of history. He also, just like he does in a lot of his books, gets into the etymology of words as he talks about the history of things, meaning the history of the word itself, where it came from, how it came to mean what it means as we use it. A really good example of that from the hallway chapter, or the hall, as he says in the book, is the word room itself. Room, as we mean it, is a separate space or a separate chamber used for a particular purpose. Bathroom, bedroom, dining room. We don't use room with kitchen, but kitchen is a room because it's set for a particular purpose as a separate space. So the word room first appeared in written form in English during the Tudor age. Just to give you a sense of what the Tudor age means, that's the time of that fun, happy guy, Henry VIII, the old King of England with 1,000,000 wives that he killed. That's the Tudor age. And that, during that time, was the first appearance in English written, the word room. And it gets into other things like this, which I find really interesting. He actually has a whole book on the English language. It's called Mother Tongue. If it sounds interesting to you, I may do a video on it. Let me know in comments. And the book Mother Tongue is effectively a biography of the English language up to the time when it was written, which I think was in the late 80s or early 90s when he wrote that book. I'm not sure right now off the top of my head, but it is a real interesting book. And he does some of this etymology stuff in all his books, and this one is no different. So I really like that kind of thing. While the book itself is focusing room by room as we go through the house, the subtitle, as I said at the beginning, is A Short History of Private Life. And this is very true. He leaves the house. He goes out to the yard. He talks about how gardens developed and the idea of a yard as we have it in gardens, and domesticating animals, how pets came around to be, particularly cats and dogs, the most famous domesticated animals, at least as pets, So all of these things, even clothing talks about how, as the time goes along and how as the house grows up to be what we have now, of course, cultural changes came along and different technology came along and literacy came along. Most houses way back when didn't have a library. There weren't a lot of books in the house because not a lot of people were literate. That, thankfully, very, very thankfully, has changed over time, and now most houses have books, and some houses even have a library. Again, a separate room for the purpose of storing your books and reading and whatnot. I have a bookshelf. You can see it behind me. That's my own version of it here, where I am, and so it's all kinds of things like this that he gives in his book. It's really, really interesting. He also, in the process of that, gives stories of how some of the things came to be that are famously found in these particular rooms, like the toilet and the bathroom. Well, in the kitchen, or in the book, it's in the dining room chapter, but it could easily also be in the kitchen chapter. We learned the story of how salt and pepper became salt and pepper. Every kitchen or dining room has some sort of salt and pepper shaker. And why is that? Why is it those two spices and not other spices? Why is salt and pepper salt and pepper? And he gets into that. And it's a very interesting history, as you might expect in older times, ancient times, and to some extent now. War was involved in this story. As he says in the book, nobody will die without spices, but many people have died for spices. And it's true with salt and pepper. And he tells that story of how wars were fought over control of salt fields for the purposes of many things, not just food. And on the pepper side, he explains the different types of pepper. And he gets into the Scoville scale, which is the scale that measures how hot a particular pepper is, and all of that kind of stuff. So in the end, it's a really, really interesting book. I have to admit, Bryson is one of my favorite writers, so don't be surprised if he makes more appearances on this show. But I just wanted to give you a little introduction to this book. My grade for this book is an A+. It's very, very interesting, very well written, has the very dry Bryson humor, and it's a really good book. Check it out. So please come back next time, where I'm going to take a little break from written books and get into a bit of audiobook, particularly creating and publishing audiobooks. We're going to take a look at that next time. And in the meantime, please be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, share, and comment, and give a thumbs up and thumbs down. You know what to do at this point. All the usual stuff. So until next time, I thank you for watching, and keep on reading.